What's up, kids? This is the Leafs Convo podcast for Vanguard Northeast Realty in Scarborough, vanguardne.ca. I'm your host, Norman James. It's been 1 year since Mike and I resuscitated the Leafs Convo podcast. We did our first episode of this brand new project 363 days ago on Anchor. The title, wait for it, this is unbelievably creative. Panthers versus Leafs pregame. Outstandingly inventive. Since then, we haven't tried to reinvent anything, just put a Leafs Convo style spin on discussion that revolves around the biggest, most important team in hockey, one of the biggest, most important teams in all of sports, yours and ours, Toronto Maple Leafs. Over the next 30 minutes, we'll talk a little bit about the Leafs Panthers from Scotiabank Arena, 4 goals for Tavares and a 7-5 Maple Brothers win. We'll discuss why those 4 goals plus the 45 on the season and everything else makes John Tavares worth every single penny he's being paid. I know you have Leafs Qs that require Leafs Convo A's. We'll take care of that. Plus, Mike and I will add our reflections on the year that's been for the Leafs Convo and maybe give you an idea of what's to come. So what do you say? Let's go. The Leafs Convo 1 year in episode starts right now. The Leafs Convo is brought to you by Vanguard Northeast Realty. With over 15 years' experience, Vanguard provides superior level of service for commercial real estate tenants and owners. For more information, visit vanguardne.ca. And we are joined by Mike Hodja in Cheektowaga, New York. Good morning, Michael.
Good morning, Norman. How are you doing?
Not too bad. Still processing the Leafs 7-5 win over the Panthers. It wasn't a defensive display by any means, but John Tavares scores 4 goals in the game. The Leafs win. They push closer to, well, not catching Boston, but getting this regular season over and getting on with the business of playing in the postseason.
Well, I mean, you have to give Tavares credit. You know, his first year in Toronto, first year of the big deal. A lot of players in the past for a lot of teams, when they come in on big contracts, will not put up numbers, and he has put up. I mean, right now he has 45 goals, only second only to Alex Ovechkin. So you have to give him credit for putting up a big number with a lot of expectations in a big hockey city. And, I mean, he's really performed up to any expectation anybody had. But as you said, this was not a defensive gem. And that's, again, I know that I've sort of harped on this, but going into the playoffs, I mean, you had that stretch of 4 games where they gave up 23 goals and they lost 3 of 4. And then Babcock really sort of, I think, battened down the hatches and told them, you know, you guys need to play better defensively for us to be able to win. And they played better defensively, but when they did, they didn't score. And now last night, they go up against a Florida team that has nothing to play for other than they can play wide open offensive hockey if they want to. And the Leafs fed into that and scored 2 goals. They chased the rookie goaltender and forced Luongo to come in. But in the end, they're up 7-3, and then they let Florida back in that game. So I'm concerned about this. The team's ability to play a two-way game. They can play defensively well. They can play offensively well, but they can't play offensively and defensively well. And you need to play at both ends of the ice when it comes to the postseason.
OG's Converse, thanks for all of the birthday anniversary wishes. We'll get to your cues for some Leafs Convo A's in just a moment. Mike, the Leafs had that game won, and I think they decided to crack the beers before the final whistle. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? And things looked a little pear-shaped, but had that been a different set of circumstances, and they knew that the complexion of the game would be a little tighter, a little bit more serious, I believe they would have continued playing as they have over the past, 3-4 games, limiting teams to under 20 shots, 2 or less goals against per game. I'm going to throw them a bone for this one because it was an offensive feast, and it was nice. It was a fun game, and I tweeted last night, and I stand by the tweet. The Leafs needed a game like that where guys can just get a whole bunch of points, pad some stats, feel good about themselves. John Tavares, 45 goals. I know they're all from within 2 feet, Mike. And I know now the narrative is, 45 goals within 2 feet. Come on, Mike. But
they all count the same. So I don't know.
No, it's
really,
nonsense. I'm kidding. And OG's Converse. Sometimes you don't get my sarcasm, but I'm extremely sarcastic. and I'm humorous all the time. Never in the history of anything has a 2-foot anything that results in success been contested until now. And we know where it's coming from. We don't even have to bring them up. This is the anniversary birthday show for us. We only have one. And let's not ruin it by bringing up those diabolical monsters who just don't like the game very much. This is the Leafs Convo for Vanguard Northeast Realty in Scarborough, VanguardNE.ca. Michael, any reflections on the past year? It's been pretty crazy. It's gone by like a whirlwind. Who knew?
Well, the funny thing is, I think, and this is like, I'm not trying to pat myself and yourself on our backs so much that I'll separate my shoulder, but I think we've been ahead of the curve when it comes to the problems of this team and analyzing them and finding them out and expressing them before other people have, because I think we've played it down the middle and we've played it fairly, because this is not a Norm and Mike waving our pom-poms for the blue and white. This is a podcast where we're analyzing this team and looking at them with unjaundiced eyes, and essentially saying, okay, we know that this team is really good. We know they have a lot of talent, but we know they also have problems.
Yeah, we are who we are, Mike. And one of the things about what I do in life is try to improve every single day. And when users of the podcast, OGs, converts, people who've come and gone, recommend we do something different to help the podcast, to make us better, we typically do it. Now, when we have people who listen and accuse us of being negative or being jerks, there's nothing we can do about that. There's no way we can succeed with a podcast if we are just saying what you want us to say. And a lot of times you don't even know what you want to hear. You tune into a podcast because you hear people express their opinions, their principles in terms of how they believe the game should be played. And that's what we do. I find that a lot of people now are so absolute in their thinking. They believe it a way, and that's it. Here, we believe a certain way, but we're not Stadler and Waldorf yet, Mike. That's a Muppets reference for all of you millennials. Yeah. God love you. You keep this channel going. But we evolve and we change. And I said the Leafs were going to win the Stanley Cup. I don't think they're going to win the Stanley Cup now. But if I were staunch and stubborn, I'd still stick to it. And look, we've been on William Nylander for not being a lazy guy or anything like that. We just feel that his impact on this team is overblown. And now I'll stick with that because that is the case. But we evolve, we change, and we take recommendation, and we listen to what people say to us on the podcast, Michael. I interact with people all the time, and it's been a lot of fun. The crazy thing is it's been 1 year, and my question for you is, 1 year later, how do you feel about the Leafs now that is different from how you felt about the Leafs on March 28, 2018?
We didn't know for sure, I believe, that they were going to play Boston. Although I know there was a closer race between Boston and Tampa last year, so I didn't have the, I guess, prejudice of a playoff series against a team and how the Leafs played against them going into the playoffs as I do now. I thought the Leafs had a better chance against Boston, not knowing how they matched up last year, and even though I think the Leafs are more talented this year, I think they have less of a chance of beating the Bruins simply because of the way they played against them last April and in the 4 games during the regular season. That's not to say again that they can't beat them. They just really have to rise to the occasion and show things that they haven't shown consistently during the season this year. And I'll have to say, last night, finally, there was a little bit of a pushback when somebody gets taken a run at when Jace Hurlock runs at Tavares and Ron Hainsey. he doesn't beat him his lunch, but at least he responded, pushed him down, and gave him a couple punches in the face. Now, that you need to do that when your good players are taken advantage of, and Tavares was having the night of his life, and this guy tries to go high on him. You need to stick up for your teammates, and if more players do that, I think they have a better chance in this postseason to succeed.
We're talking about Ron Hainsey here. So Jace Hurlock fed Ron Hainsey his lunch. It was after 4. Ron Hainsey needs to water down mashed potatoes. Boom, boom, boom. Come on. He's old. I love Ron Hainsey. People get on Ron Hainsey all the time. It's funny how it's the old guy's fault, but the young guys seem to get a pass. When William Nylander doesn't show up, well, he's pretty, and we project him to be. But Ron Hainsey, who should be in a wheelchair or should be watching from the press box because this team's rife with incredible defensive talent, he makes the mistake, so let's point the finger at him. Or Patrick Marleau. What happened to Patrick Marleau? Whoa, he should be better. He's one of the oldest guys in the league. Leave the old people alone, for goodness sake.
I don't know how pretty William Nylander is. They showed a photo of him at the morning skate, and he looked like Seth Rogen. So I don't know how pretty he is.
Look, he's an image. Kids love him. He's fashionable, and he had two of the greatest 61-point seasons in hockey history, Mike. And look, he is to Leaf fans, some Leaf fans today, what Alex Kovalev was to Habs fans back in the day. The difference is that William Nylander still has a lot of opportunity ahead of him, whereas Kovalev was at the nearing the end of his career at that stage, playing with the Montreal Canadiens. But remember, when you play with the Leafs, your image is amplified, whether it's warranted or not. When you play with the Habs, it's the same damn thing. And that's why we love talking about the Maple Leafs, covering the Maple Leafs, lamenting the Maple Leafs, dreaming about the Leafs. That's what we do here. And we all have to remember that. I have to remember that when I want to block someone on social media or get rid of somebody on the YouTube page. We all love the Maple Leafs. We all don't agree, but it is what it is. At the end of the day, if that team that we love hoists the Stanley Cup, I think we may all celebrate together. It's possible. Oh, geez, what do you think? Let me know. Can we let our bygones be bygones and put our differences aside and all celebrate together if this Leafs team wins a Stanley Cup? Or will the analytics people be mad that John Tavares scored the Stanley Cup winning goal from within 2 feet? I don't know, Mike. Let me get to some questions. My man, Joe Shedler. This guy is the OG. This guy, Joe, I love you, brother. You care about this podcast. You push it. You are the man. I appreciate that very much. He throws some congratulations at us. Wow, 1 year. Time flies. Hope you're having fun, Mike. I'd say we're having fun here. I mean, we're just talking about hockey, right?
Sure. Yeah. I have fun talking. I mean,
yeah.
I'm Italian. That's what we do.
Yeah, exactly. Unless we can't play, so we talk, right? And we think that the talking outweighs the playing. Shanny at Shanny55 on Twitter. What defense pair should be given the task of the Bruins top line? I'm not sure Mo and Hainsey can do it. That's a great question, Mike.
Well, I think they're going to have to do it because that's going to be the pairing that does get that line. I mean, maybe Boston tries to get away from that. I mean, we know that Riley's probably going to play 25 to 27 minutes a night, and when he's out there, Hainsey's going to be out there. I mean, what is your option? It's like it's probably either going to be them or Muzzin and Zaitsev. And Zaitsev had a couple questionable plays last night where Nikita, you're not supposed to screen your own goaltender, which he did. He wasn't taking up one of the Panthers players in front of the net. He was just standing there blocking the view of Anderson on I think it was Matheson's goal. So no, I think it's going to be right. That's the pairing that Babcock trusts, and that's the line that has to be shut down. Maybe it won't be every shift, but I'll bet you it'll be close to every one that it'll be Hainsey.
Have you seen the Gare Joyce book, Young Guns? On the cover, it's got Matthews in the middle, Nylander on one side, and Nikita Zaitsev on the other. Wow, did he photobomb that picture or what?
Yeah, I haven't read it. I haven't seen the book yet. But
wow,
that's not a line combo. That's like, oh, by the way, hey, Nikita, how you doing?
That's why books are obsolete. We don't need books anymore unless it's an audiobook. That's funny, that picture, though. It's Austin Matthews. He has some sustainability within this organization because Zaitsev, I mean, he is who he is. People want him traded. And William Nylander won't be here this time next year. Let's go to the next question. Oh, this is a fun one. Let's get it out of the way, okay? Eric Diaz. Probably not a popular take, but do you think the Tavares signing was a mistake? I love him on this team, but his salary is kind of why we're in such cap trouble. I believe we have plenty of forward depth and don't really need to add him. Eric, I think you're the world, but bro, I mean, you dipped into the Bob Marley kale last night, and that's supposed to make you that's supposed to make you happy, Eric, not make you crazy. Who got to you, Eric?
Okay, I mean, I'll dip into the realm that Eric is going here, and he's probably looking at the fact that you're going to have likely 3 $10+ million players when Marner gets signed, and that will make things a little tight and difficult with for Kyle Dubas. But that's where and I'm going to write about this in the coming weeks, probably after the season is over with. But if Patrick Marleau retires, this team doesn't have as many problems as you think. Now, they're not going to force him to retire, and I don't know if he's going to retire. I mean, there have been inklings that the 3-year deal that he signed was actually a 2-year deal, and that the bonus that he has in July, that he would retire after that, and then the Leafs would be able to, especially with the cap going up and the cap floor going up, would be very easily able to trade the contract, or trade the rights of Marleau, since he was a 35 and over guy, and you can't clean that contract off of the books even if he retires. You can trade it pretty easily in a cap world where the guy's being paid $1 million something, and the cap hits over 6. But if he doesn't retire, then a decision is going to have to be made. Kapanen has to be signed as well. So does Janssen. I don't think either are going to be cheap, but I don't think they're going to be as expensive as people think, because at least Kapanen's trailed off a little bit, and Janssen has only had 1 year, so it's not like they're going to hit $5 million a year on new contracts. But they're going to have to make a decision. And again, I keep thinking if Marleau doesn't retire, that Nylander will be the guy traded to get a defenseman. And if they lose in the first round and it's because they can't play defense, which I think everybody is sort of expecting, then that is the type of move that Kyle Dubas will have to make. He can't keep saying, well, I want to keep all the guys.
Yeah.
Well, keep all the guys. The problem is if you're not winning and you can't stop the puck from going into your net, then what the hell's the point of keeping all the guys?
Mike, this is cultural. Blame the old people who can't do it as well anymore, and then blame the people who do all the work. That's what it is. And I don't know if Eric's getting at that. I don't think he is. I've dealt with him on social media. He's a great guy. And I think his question is in jest. We can ask these questions, and you're right. But if you're paying $10 million for someone who sucks and it does not produce, shame on you. Shame on them. When you pay $10 million to 3 guys, and that's a lot of money, $10 million plus, to 3 guys who carry most of the play and who actually produce, then that's the way she goes. Ray from Trailer Park, that's the way she goes, boys. You have a glut of talent. Then get rid of William Nylander. Trade him for something else. Stop trying to create this blueprint that'll surround this guy. Like we know he's a good player, but let's stop blaming John Tavares for making too much money or scoring 2-foot goals to continue to push this narrative that this team really should be a number 29's team. It's not going to be that way.
And it's not like this organization doesn't have a player waiting in the wings to replace somebody if they trade a Kapanen or a Janssen or a Nylander. I mean, I'm sorry, but Jeremy Bracco is leading the American League.
No. Nylander fans want him traded now. Because it's ridiculous, Mike. It's ridiculous. Tavares scores 2-foot goals. He makes too much money. Bracco's good now. Get rid of him. Like we need to start thinking about what's the most important goal for this team. Mike, what is it? Is that to win Stanley Cups and be sustainable? This team can do that. But to look back and say, well, Tavares costs too much money. Well, your guy, Kyle Dubas, signed him, and Tavares came in, and he made one of the greatest impacts for a first-year player with a new team in the history of the league. He's got 45 goals and might score 50. This conversation is absolutely ridiculous, and we've given it too much time, Mike. Let's move on. At Jamie, happy anniversary to us. Bridget Haftlin, another incredible OG representing Virginia. Happy 1-year anniversary, she says. That's so nice. Usually we're getting Norm, you're a you-know-what. Mike, you're a new you-know-what. But Bridget's got class. And you know what? Keep them coming. I don't care. As long as you click on the page, that's what makes sense for us. I've got a fun question for you. Who was your favorite Leaf growing up? I'm an Anderson fan myself. You are dating us, Bridget. You are dating us. You are making us seem really old. Okay, Mike, you first.
Well, let's see. I mean, if you're talking about when I was really young, it would probably be Boreas Salming.
The
You know,
king, love him.
I loved his skill, you know, and also, you know, he was able to keep other players at bay being an assassin with his stick. He had to, after getting abused by the Flyers in the '70s, he had to really use his stick as a weapon, and he did it really effectively. But I'd say, like, you know, through my teen years, it had to be Wendel Clark. Wendel Clark is probably my favorite player, and it's weird in my capacity of being a reporter and being around the rink whenever, like, Wendell, like, I'm eating dinner in the media room before the game, and a couple people are speaking to some guy, and his back was to me, and he turns around and it's Wendell Clark, and I'm like, holy crap. I mean, yeah, there's still that fan in me.
He is a beautiful man. Mike, he is a beautiful man, and I would love to take Wendell Clark in his prime and put him on one of the top two lines against the Bruins. That would change the game, don't you think?
Yeah. Oh my God. I mean, give me put Wendell Clark. I mean, he could play on any of the lines.
Oh my God.
He could play with Tavares, but I'd love to see Wendell Clark playing on the line with Kadri and probably either Marlowe or Kapanen, because he would be savage. He would run Brad Marchand and break his big nose.
And I know a lot of snowflakes and softies hate that kind of stuff. I mean, I'd like to know from OGs and converts and Leafs Convo haters, whatever. What do you guys think of the whole jostling between Drew Doughty, the Kings, and Matt Tkachuk and the Flames? Is that overboard? I mean, do you need to go to your safe space? Are you cringing? It's just part of the – like, again, this is not tennis. And tennis gets pretty nasty, but this is not paddleball or pickleball. Hockey amongst men who are angry at each other in a very claustrophobic setting on skates. This is not Cirque du Soleil. It gets nasty. And nobody wants to see fighting. Nobody wants to see nasty hits. Nobody wants to see rats running around. We don't need that. But when in Rome, when shit hits the fan, you get serious. When somebody comes to your apartment, starts rapping on your door, and wants to, come in and ransack your place, you can go hide under the bed, or you can deal with them. This is what.
I'm sorry, Norm.
Go ahead.
I want to see fights. I want to see hits. Problem is, we're not going to see it. The game is not that way anymore. I grew up and I was weaned on hockey that was tough. Yeah. That was, it wasn't bench clearing brawls anymore, but there was line brawls and there was, dirty hits, and you grow up in that atmosphere. You like it. I mean, and now I don't want anybody get hurt, and I mean, we know that the effects of fights over and over with the concussion issues. We know where that's going down the road, and I get why the game cleaned up and why the goon has been eliminated. And I love skill, but the reason I think everybody's looking forward to the playoffs is because we're going to be done without hockey without emotion, and that's the regular has become hockey without emotion. But the playoffs, you're going to see some meanness. You're going to see some dirty. You're going to see, games that are consequential and players that will go to the nth degree to win, and that's what we were raised on. That's what we.
The game is played by human beings, after all. And the thing about Wendel Clark, the guy would break your face, but not because he was a dirty little prick running around wanting to see people get hurt. The guy, you know what? He was the guy who on the schoolyard who stood up to the bully. And he destroyed the bully and then scored, 2 goals and laid a couple of big hits along the way. Wendel Clark, absolutely beautiful man. Bridget, my favorites growing up, well, Matt Sundin, greatest Leaf ever. Come on, Mike. Mike, stop.
Excuse me.
Stop. Matt's, bro, how about Matt's on this team? Okay, and I know. Oh no, Austin Matthews is way better than Matt Sundin. We have to compare the two. I've had that, but. I
put Matt's on the wing. That'd be fine because he wasn't a very good center.
Well, yeah. Well, who was he going to pass to? Lonnie Bohannes, Jonas Hogue, Ricard Valin. Apparently, Ricard Valin is parking Saabs at East London right now. No, but I actually did like a number 29 at one time who wore the Maple Leaf, and that's Mike Palmateer. Mike, come on. When you play street hockey in net, Palmateer. That guy was...
I thought you were going to say Motor City Smitty.
I don't go back that far, Michael, okay? There are levels here. I'm not at your level yet. I'm on my way, and, I have 2 kids, and keeping a whole house and a marriage together makes you feel, pretty ancient at times. Let's move on here. Big hoser. Will Hainsey finally be removed from Riley once Dermott is back? He has been awful. Will he be removed from Riley like he's a tumor?
No, honestly, I predict the only player that has a chance to play more minutes in the playoffs will be Riley. I mean, Riley will be on power plays, but Hainsey will be on his right side for almost every shift. And that means he's going to probably play 25, 26 minutes a night because, honestly, you look at the defense core, and I don't know who Babcock trusts more than Hainsey and more than Riley. I mean, I guess in one of the games last week, Hainsey played with all 5 defensive players. He played a shift with every other defender. Mm-hmm. That just tells you that Babcock is relying on him. And he's going to get a ton of ice time. And I don't agree with it, but he really has no options the way his defense is.
Where is Morgan Riley in the race for the Norris? I mean, is that all wrapped up and going to Giordano?
I think Riley's going to be one of the 3 top candidates, but I think Giordano, he's got, I think he has 69 or 70 points now. He's probably on pace. He can top Ian Turnbull's record. I think it's 79 points. But I think Giordano, and it may be ageism, but he's 35 and he's had a couple opportunities to win the Norris, but this is his best opportunity, and I have a feeling he's probably going to win it. But Riley's had a phenomenal season, and thank God they don't have to pay him the next couple of years, because if his contract was coming up, you're talking $8-9 million.
Look, you have to take into consideration the money. It's not easy, but it's not just about, well, he's a value, and here are his stats that seem pretty good. That'll work. Let's plug it. Let's plug in the numbers and run it. It doesn't work that way. We should wrap up soon, but just another thing from Carson Rodar, another at CODO quadruple G. Could we see Zaitsev healthy scratch come playoff time when Dermott Gardner returns and the possible Calle Rosen call-up? Could this occur if Rosen plays well? Rosen, I wanted to see him months ago. Interesting time for a guy like that to potentially emerge.
Yeah, first of all, I think Rosen is being brought up, and Babcock said yesterday that Rosen would be called up on the weekend. The Marlies play in Utica on Friday, so they want him to get one more game in the AHL before he comes up and plays a few games with the Leafs. I think the call-up of Rosen is the disaster scenario for if Gardner can't come back. They need to get him a look in the NHL and get him a couple games to see if he's capable and ready to handle the challenge. He had a foot injury and he was out for over a month, so that they need to get a look at him. But to Carson's question, there's not a chance in hell they're scratching Zaitsev. Not a chance. No. I mean, they will. I mean, right now, I think if Gardner is in the equation, then it'll be Rosen that sits. Rosen will be up, and he'll be the 7th defenseman. If Gardner is out, then Rosen will be on the bottom pairing, and it'll be Zaitsev with Muzzin. I mean, we know he has flaws in his game. Babcock continues to put him out there 20 minutes a night, so there's not going to be any change where he's not going to play that amount of minutes.
This is where we turn into lunatics, Mike. Let's sit the guys who've got us here, who've played 70-plus games, who've grinded it out, and who have Stanley Cup rings and have been through the playoff grind before, in favor of players who've never really done anything in the NHL, if anything at all, and have no idea what to expect. But they have good they played well in the AHL, and we just hate the guys that we have. Mike, good Lord, we have to reassess the way we think things. Guys like Hainsey will be gone soon. Zaitsev, I don't know, maybe they trade him. Remember, though, if he's junk, who wants junk? This concept of, I hate this guy, get rid of him and bring up somebody who knows nothing of what they're supposed to be doing. It's the passion in the fans, and I agree that people get upset with their players, but Good Lord. Think about what you're saying before you speak, my friends. And I have to do this all the time. I run a podcast, and sometimes I think back or look back on what I said, and I'm like, holy smokes, I should have thought that out. But you know what? You just move on forward and you try to learn from it. Some people aren't learning that these are the guys you brung to the dance, or whatever the saying is, Michael.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, I understand the point of view in the sense that we know what Zaitsev is. He's a known commodity. He's not great. He's flawed.
No, true.
But the coach trusts him.
Young
the
gun.
Coach has to. Right. So, you don't know what Calle Rosen is. You'll even if he plays great in 3 games, that's 3 games as opposed to, playing most of last season, playing 3 seasons, barring a few injuries that Zaitsev has put up. So in the end, he's going to go with the guys he trusts more.
Yeah. I hope Travis Dermott's healthy and ready to go. Fingers crossed for Jake Gardiner, number 51. We've been on him. It's because we think he's really talented and he could be better than what he's shown. And the Leafs need him. And I think he needs, if he's healthy, he needs this playoff. He needs a good, solid playoff, not only to help make more money for him in free agency, but to help close a chapter with the Maple Leafs on a great note. And I'm rooting for everybody. Let's remember, guys, we're all in this together. We're like a family. Sometimes we hate each other. Sometimes we love each other, but we all have the same goal in the end, I believe. We're stuck with Mike Babcock for now. We're stuck with Kyle Dubas. We have the forward core that can be the best in the league and then sometimes leaves a lot to be desired. This defensive unit, there should be no surprises that it's what it lacks in premier ability. It still makes up for in effort. Last thing for you, the questions on YouTube right now. The Leafs will beat the Bruins if...
I'll limit it to one thing. If Freddie Anderson stands on his head. I think they'll be able to score. I don't know whether they'll be able to improve defensively. But if Anderson plays like he did in November and December before the injury, then I think that the Leafs can beat the Bruins. Whether he does that or not, I mean, last night he did not play that great. I mean, he wasn't responsible for all 5 goals. But, and this is the reason why I hope over the last 6 games of the regular season, Mike Babcock plays Garrett Sparks 3 times. Mm-hmm. There is not anything to be gained in the last few games playing Freddie Anderson 4 or 5 times because they've been playing him that much the entire season. Give him a rest. Let him get ready for the playoffs. And if he goes in playing 61 games and loses and runs out of gas in game 6 or game 7, then we know the reason why.
Sorry, Mike, I'm laughing because I'm thinking of a commercial that I see on Leafs Nation Network where the lady's in her basement. She's got a leak. She can't stop the leak. And Freddie Anderson walks out. He's like, here you go. And they're like, stop the leaks, Anderson style. It's something along those, like an insurance company. He's just standing in her basement. She can't get the leaks plugged, and then he shows up and plugs it up with his. I think the Leafs will win the Stanley, or it's not the Stanley Cup. Well, the Stanley Cup is beating the Bruins. It's a 3 Fs. Okay, no fear. So that would be NF. So no fear. Have fun. Fill the net. The Leafs will win that series. Don't fear the Bruins. Have a blast and do what you're great at doing. Scoring. Take the play to the Bruins. Catch them flat-footed. And you know what? They'll rewrite history. And after this thing is done, the Leafs will now have conquered Mount Bruin, and they will be the team that begins nipping at the heels of the Tampa Bay Lightning, and the Bruins will have been knocked down a rung. But they have to get this thing done first. Mikey, happy 1 year, my friend.
Thanks, Norman.
We would like to thank Vanguard Northeast Realty in Scarborough, title sponsor of the Leafs Convo, demonstrating passion for the industry and a superior level of excellence in selling, leasing, and marketing your property. Vanguard Northeast Realty. That is a wrap for the 1 year episode of the Leafs Convo podcast. Was it as mediocre for you as it was for us? No, I'm just kidding. It's so much fun. This year has been a blast, hasn't it? How many more years do we have in us? Are we at the Ron Hainsey level of our podcasting career, or are we at the Morgan Riley level where it's been a fantastic season, but the best is yet to come? Holler at us, get at us, yell at us on Twitter at I am Norman James, at Mike in Buffalo, or I'd prefer you reach out to us inside the YouTube comments section. Let us know what you think of this pod, previous pods, and the kinds of stuff you want to hear from us going forward. That Gare Joyce book I referenced, it's not Young Guns, it's Young Leafs. Austin Matthews on the cover with William Nylander on one side of him and Nikita Zaitsev on the other side of him. I read it last night, or finished reading it last night. Great read. Gare Joyce does an incredible job writing stories about Canadian athletes, Canadian sports teams, specifically the Toronto Maple Leafs. He does incredible work, and you guys are incredible for everything you do to support this podcast. For Michael A., I'm Norman J. Talk to you soon. The Leafs Convo is out.